Get your day started right. From our shack to yours, this is Coffee and Ham Radios. We are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Howdy, people. Good morning.
Hooray.
You know, technically there's an extra second after that countdown. Just being pedantic.
There he goes. There he goes.
Yes! First!
Okay. All right. So Chuck is not here this morning because he had to see the CHP officers about some past due notifications they had mailed him.
That's the polite way of saying he got the pat down on the side of the road.
I thought he was at the post office mailing stuff.
Oh, his picture's probably at the post office, you know, for sketchiness.
And he talking smack anyway, like Chuck's ever started a show on time in his life.
Right. He would still be thinking he started it.
Right.
Yeah, 5 minutes in and we're not live yet.
No, we do know Chuck will end a show early. All the time.
Yes. Little brown liquor.
That's right. That's right.
I've done that on work on like a Teams call where I've been muted, and then I think that I'm hitting the unmute button and I hit the leave button for whatever reason.
Oh yeah.
When I come back, I'm always like, I was upset, so I had to leave. Swede is very observant.
So if you're on the mobile platform for StreamYard, there is no leave studio button. There is only an end stream button.
We need to make sure to duct tape that over on Chuck's phone.
Right.
For Huntsville.
Yeah. Smitty might be running late. He's a ham bro, so we're going to give him a pass, but we don't know where he is.
Yeah, we won't talk bad about him until he shows up.
Right, and then we'll be like, son, you done messed up the whole thing.
I mean, we are quasi-professional YouTube radio stars here, son. And
I will never talk bad about you behind your back. I will only say truth, and I won't say anything that I wouldn't say to your face.
Maybe he's still getting caught up with daylight savings. You know what I'm saying? It could just be an honest mistake.
Right. Hank said use whiteout. That's probably a better idea, Hank, except Chuck would be like, what's this spot? And he'd rub it off and end the stream. I don't know.
Oh, I thought you meant in the title. We can go edit the title. Take Smitty out until he shows up.
Take Smitty out.
But his picture's on the thumbnail, so I don't know how we maybe
change that too. We have
put Jim's face on there or something.
So we got other things we can talk about. Certainly.
Jim the influencer.
The Swede done got him a flex. Morton, I have not watched either one of your videos yet, and that's on my to-do list for today. So good on you, son. I love mine.
Which one did you get, Swede? I saw your thumbnail, but I didn't.
Yeah, I hadn't watched the video yet.
He got a 5,000.
Did you get a new one?
I'm kidding. I have no idea.
He got the Flex 99.
The 9,000, the Flexinator 9,000.
So we're up to 6,000 something in model number. So what was the Flex 1,000 like, or did they actually start at like Flex 1 and there's been that many?
If SKT is in the chat, and I think I see him, yes, there he is. The 1,500 is the oldest one I know about. There may be an older one than that.
He said he got a 6,300 at a great price. What's the difference?
So that only has one spectral capture unit. It's like a lot of dual VFO radios. You can transmit and receive on one, and you can only receive on the other VFO. So he can dual VFO it, but he can't transmit on the second VFO. That's the biggest.
Can't transmit on the second VFO.
That's the first one I bought.
Capture unit. I'm thinking of like the gypsy tent outside the circus. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I like gypsies.
Yeah, that's what Flex calls them. The part that makes it radio both ways. So the 6,300 is the first one I bought when we had Mike Walker on the show, and I went and bought a used one off of Flex that during the show.
Other Andy's got that one now, right?
That's yes. Yep. Other that one is in its new home in Iowa, being lovingly cared for by other Andy.
And oddly enough, he's still a friend of the channel too. So
right.
He loves it. When I talk to him, he says he likes it.
Oh yeah, it's a great radio. And what Mike said on our stream that time when I bought mine, and it still stands today, and it's going to change a little bit, but the 6,300 is a great value because Mike said the 6,300, 6,400. There's not that much difference between them. The difference is being able to transmit on 2 slices versus 1, and that's about it. And
there he is right there. I think he's pouring a gallon out with that thing too. I think
I think he's got some juice. Yeah. Yeah. And then the one I have is the 6600, and then the newer ones are the 8000 series, and I'm fine with this one for quite a while. So
I heard that the 8000 really is like a Yaesu 818 deal, where there was just part availability, and so they had to change the designation in order to stay compliant.
You mean the
maybe.
D74, D75? I thought the 817 to 818 was the finals kept blowing up.
Well, they changed it was around part availability.
Right, Morton?
John said they couldn't keep getting the same components. So and I thought that I don't know the functions of the different flexes, so I don't know if the 8000 does anything revolutionary that the other ones didn't.
The biggest thing,
sure Don can let us know.
yes, is well, Chuck is sassing about it too.
He knows all about flex.
Right, he's an expert. The adaptive predistortion is supposed to be the big new thing in the new one, and there's a couple other features, and I don't remember what they are, but in my opinion, and I haven't studied it, so somebody's going to get butt hurt. I just don't see it as a revolutionary change. I see it as an evolutionary change, and I feel no need to upgrade mine to the
How
new
dare
one.
you?
What Jim is saying is I'm too poor to afford the new one, therefore I'm justifying keeping the old one.
I mean, I'm still finishing off the cat food from when I bought this, so I mean, but my point was, you can probably you'll start seeing some deals on guys selling these things.
Yeah, check the swap meet on toads, because Jim's will be for sale in 2 weeks.
Somebody just sold one the other day. There's one for sale on there.
Yep, Devin.
Yep, and one of our toads bought it.
Yep. So my Sun SDR DX2 or 2DX or whatever it is, they said that was going to have adaptive predistortion, and as far as I know, it does not have it yet.
Yeah.
Now the Hermes does, and the Anons have it, and I think the ICOM 7610 has adaptive predistortion now. And here's what's crazy about the whole thing. Like Chuck,
and that was a firmware update, I think, on the 7610, right?
Yeah, and Chuck is raking on. There's some hardware components too, because you need to feed the signal back in. But Chuck's raking on the Flex for not having adaptive predistortion, even though they said it was going to. And he uses the Yaesu 710 most of the time, which guess what it doesn't have?
Adaptive predistortion.
That's right.
But it's a portable radio with an actual screen and knob, so it wins.
Chuck is a knob.
Before we get too far away from this, Todd, AI4 Taco Bueno, Taco Bravo. Thank you very much for the $10 super chat.
Thank you, Todd.
Todd, appreciate it, brother.
Tacos. I think that should be on the menu for Huntsville.
Tacos?
Campsite. Yeah, do a taco night.
We could do that. That sounds good.
Just put it in the slow cooker.
Do you have a fire pit at your campsite?
I believe so, but it was we should have lit a fire to keep the bugs down, but it was not cool enough that we wanted a fire.
It's also not exactly fire weather in August in Alabama, yeah.
No, I mean it's cool up on the mountain, but it's not that cool. You're not like, oh, a fire would be nice. You're like, no, it's fine.
Well, I don't know, as sensitive as you are about the cold, complaining about 68 being cold.
No, like you wake up to 66 degrees indoors in the morning. And
I'd like that.
This house doesn't have air conditioning.
We call that winter here. If Julie gets cold, she puts the furnace up to 66 degrees.
Smart woman.
But that thing stays on 64.
There's a reason why I wear a jacket all the time.
Well, what's crazy is in the summertime, if it's 66 degrees, you'd be like, it feels good.
In the winter,
but in the winter, in the winter, if it's 66 degrees, you're like, I'm freezing my stuff off.
my boys are cold. See, we don't get snow down here during the winter, hardly ever. But we get a lot of rain in the wintertime, so it's like 42 and raining. And I honestly think that is more freaking miserable than having snow.
But when you're wet,
it
pulls the heat right out of you. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But also the upside of that is we don't have snow down here. So yay. So Brian Hendricks has been a member for 16 months. And I think this was already up there, but we didn't mention it. But Brian has got his FX4 CR and he's going to be potaing.
Poutine, isn't that a Canadian food?
He'll be poutining today and got some new fancy gear from WENY.
That radio is pretty sweet.
Andy, my man, I had an
If you like
idea. I thought of
QRP.
you. 12-volt slow cooker. It's a thing. We need to do this next time we POTA. Andy, if you all don't remember, when Andy and I did a POTA with Iowa Hank, Andy cooked in the truck in a slow cooker on an inverter on the hour-long drive out there and had lunch ready for us. It was awesome.
You mean like a crock pot when you say slow cooker?
Yeah.
That is
crock
man
pot.
code for a crock pot. Right.
Yeah, I can't say crock pot. That's illegal in 47 states.
Right.
I love using crock pot to cook stuff.
Don said, okay,
He
Don.
knows.
Don said the sun knocked out 40 meters last night. Don, I was FT8ing
Yeah,
all
but that
over
doesn't
40
count.
last night.
FT8 don't need the sun, son.
But you probably weren't FT8ing right. That's the
Yeah.
problem. You see,
I was only using 100 watts to FT8 last night.
Right.
During the day when
Shame.
I'm not here, I may turn on the juice a little more so I don't have to sit back here and listen to the amp.
old cornbread don't like the crock pot. What's wrong with you, son?
I think the crock pot can be overused a lot.
I haven't, Steve, and I should probably buy one. One because Smitty's a ham bro, but I just never bought one. I do think it is a pretty clever creation.
Yeah.
And it would probably make my life easier instead of using my janky leads. So maybe I'll go ahead and do that.
Have you got your impedance testing? What's that thing you showed the other day? Your death cable. What was that for? Was that power?
It's over there, the cable of death. So I use that so I can pull a signal out of my inverter, and then I can
ACL.
and it's easy to connect to my oscilloscope, so I can take a look at the sine wave.
Oh, that's right. That's what that.
It's an AC plug on one side, so 2-prong to go into your electrical outlet, and a BNC banana jack adapter on the other side, so you can plug it into his scope.
I mean, I think that violates electrical code and like.
I'm sure,
it's
and I always tell
it's
people
scary.
don't do it, don't do it.
In the territories.
My wife saw it and she's like, "Is that safe?" I'm
No,
like,
it's
"Well,
not safe.
safe is a relative word, you know." And
But see,
the
she figured
challenge
out-
is that I don't have a multimeter that has probes. And you know what? I could probably craft something a little safer. Now that I think about it.
I can tell you from personal experience, I made a death cable and I had 2 bolts on the end of the wires, 12 gauge house wiring, solid copper.
Yeah.
So I could hook it up to the meter and test a few things. And the wires are doing like this, right? And it's hooked to the battery. And yeah. And guess what touched?
Yep.
It was awesome.
Jim saying
Yeah,
it's touched, and it was awesome.
So when I was setting up that inverter for that video, one of the things I do is I have this. I don't know what it's a ground tester, I think is what it is. So it's basically a big alligator clip on one side and something that looks like an ice pick on the other. And then inside the handle of the ice pick, it's got an LED.
Oh yeah, it's a tester.
Yeah.
So what I do is I clip the alligator clip to the wire coming off of the inverter, and then I touch the screwdriver looking thing to the terminal on the battery. And what'll happen is that current will flow, and the LED comes up while it's flowing into the inverter to charge the capacitors. Once those capacitors are charged, when I connect the cable, it doesn't draw current from the battery until you turn on the inverter, right? So if your capacitors are not charged and you touch it, spark show.
Right.
So I'm a dummy, and I connected everything up and I touched it, and immediately the light comes on and then it goes off. But then it came on again, which is something that it never does. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what's going on here? And I just, well. And then I went to connect the cable, spark show everywhere. And it was because the inverter was actually on. Now, so I got the inverter, took it right out of the box, connected it. So they shipped it with the inverter on. And I'm a dumbass because I didn't plug it in. Arnie, I think you heard us say he was running late.
Yeah. I mean, we're not even at the point where we can shame him yet. He's only 15 minutes late.
Yeah, I just got
one
an
more
email
minute.
back from him. He said he just woke up. His alarm didn't go off.
So
Now
he might have had the
that's
problem
sus.
that I did. my power went out last night. And so maybe somebody's technically advanced as Smitty shouldn't be relying on an alarm
I
clock.
mean, right.
It's part of the license. You know, you should be able to operate technical equipment such as an alarm clock.
I mean, I say, "Hey Siri, set an alarm," and there you go. I'm done, and it works. I don't know,
You don't even have to
but
get
the
up out of the
halibut
chair
is
to do
coming,
that.
Arnie. The halibut is en route sooner or later. He probably has to have coffee because I kind of get the feeling Smitty's in California, and I kind of get the feeling that
Oh,
Smitty is not a morning person either. So
that
it's
explains a whole lot.
right.
Yeah, he's getting all up.
Dave,
Well,
you are
hopefully he gets
exactly
dressed.
right. The death cable, the suicide cable. That's right.
Yeah.
I'll go grab the death cable real quick. Hold on.
Go grab the death cable. The people demand it.
Now, technically, there's nothing wrong with it until they turn the power back on.
Right.
But you should, if you're ever using that, you should turn the main breaker off in your circuit panel so you're not running the risk of backfeeding the pole worker trying to fix your power for you.
Right. So Steve,
Devin has been pretty rowdy in the swap meet. He's getting rid of a Anytone 878 UV2 Plus now, and then before that he got rid of the Flex, and then he had an ICOM 2800 that he's selling full duplex.
So this is the cable of death.
that looks very professional.
Well, everybody always thinks it's a joke, but what it does is allows me to hook the scope up. And when I get every time I get this out, I'm thinking to myself, today might be the day that the Lord calls me home. But right, I mean, it's like you're making me laugh.
Oh, it almost made me speak coffee. I saw Fred Sanford. I'm coming home, Elizabeth. I'm coming home.
Right. But I mean, it's not safe. It's not a good idea. I would never ever suggest or recommend anybody do something so stupid. But I mean, I use a manual tuner, so I know what I'm doing. You know what I
Jim's
mean?
video got choked up.
There we go with the manual tuner. The manual tuna. I got a manual tuna behind me.
So I showed this on the members only chat the other night, but check this out. This is a manual tuner for VHF. Cool.
Morning, Sweet Pea.
144 through 220.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to get it onto my headphones.
You're good, man.
That's we might mock you a little more, but that's okay. You look like you just woke up. Absolutely. I mean, you look much more fresh-faced when you were working the booth at Hamvention than you do right now. You're like, coffee. Have you had coffee? You need coffee.
Oh, no.
So, where's the fuse in that suicide cable?
I was wondering if anybody's good. Listen, ain't no need for protection is what I'm saying. I'm not.
That didn't work out so well for me one time. I'm just saying. So,
right. No fuse. It does make. I do get nervous when I'm testing with it.
I took apart a 100 amp hour battery. I was a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Because there's nothing you can do. There's no off switch on a battery. It's just there.
Once it goes, it goes.
Don nailed it with that's some Electro Boom level mess right there.
Oh my God.
And go ahead.
Okay, really quickly about Electro Boom. When I was in high school, I was working at an electronics junk store in Mountain View, and they had I think it was a 5-watt carbon dioxide laser that they set up and were like showing off how they could burn messages in the back wall of the warehouse. It was crazy. But I got zapped by the power supply from that thing.
Ouch.
So it was a 17,000 volt laser power supply, and it wasn't on, but it was still charged up. All the capacitors were still charged up. And I got thrown back, like from the front of the counter back against the wall. It was scary. Anyway, point being, ever since then, I cannot watch Electro Boom. Like, just cannot. Like, there is way too much trauma there. I just can't do it.
That guy has shocked himself so many times on purpose. I love his show. I watch him all the time.
He's crazy.
Yeah. What was I was going to ask Well, I don't know. Oh, well, back to Big John's comment. So, and we got talking about Electroboom, which is what made me think about this. He does that. Electroboom, he will set up some sketchy thing that you know is going to spark, right?
Right.
And instead of having the power run to a simple on-off switch where he could safely touch it and reach over and flip the switch on and off, right? Instead, he reaches over the sketch device to plug in the power cord, right? So then when it catches on fire and is throwing off sparks, he has to reach back over it again every time. I'm like, oh my God, you're killing me, son. Put a switch on that thing.
But he does that for the views, though. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he's probably taken 20 years off his life.
Right.
Totally worth it.
Right. Or else he's mutating into a new kind of superhero that we all deserve. I don't know. But
what's like the Karate Man, like when they punch the bricks to get their hand stronger. He's just
right. Right.
he's just doing that to build up tolerance.
Right. Electroboom is Dame Bramaged. He could very well be.
My wife always slams the lid to the washing machine, and so one day she's like the washing machine doesn't work, and I'm thinking to myself, I know it's because you broke the switch. And being stupid, I went in there, I lifted the lid up, and I stick my finger in this little teeny hole where the hook from the lid goes in to trigger the switch, and I'm feeling around, and I can feel that the switch is missing. And boop, I touched the two contacts, and man, did I take a hit, because the washing machine's 220, right? And I felt it come up my arm and then across my chest and then down my one leg, and like it went out the bottom of my foot, which I don't know how it did because there's no earth ground there or anything, but
gotta go somewhere.
It hurt. It definitely hurt. And so like I come out and I'm like, I guess I'm like as pale as Jim. And I went and I sat on the couch, and my old lady's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I just got shot." And I was like, "If I collapse, make sure I'm dead before you call the ambulance so you get the life insurance."
Right.
And,
Right.
I was like, if they ask what happened, I touched it. I touched things.
And you peed yourself. Nice.
I didn't. Good thing I didn't pee myself. But,
Clamp.
right. Everything.
It was clamped shut.
Right.
Well, it's funny you say that. I can't do it anymore. But yes, more than once I have played with the spin cycle.
Don't do it, man. It's not.
Well, that sounds like a euphemism.
I mean, no, it's not really. I mean, I was doing that when I was a teenager. I was like, oh, look, that's a switch that turns that on and off. So I can leave it spinning and throw shit in the washing machine with the lid open while it's spinning to see what happens for science, Smitty, for science.
For science.
So Chris is trying to call you out, but Chris hasn't paid attention to the show for very long. Ape lives in south central northwest Nebraska.
Right.
And he actually owns several laundromats, and they have the big industrial size washers there.
Yeah, mine's only 110 too. I mean, Ape folds some paper now. I'm just saying,
Well, he's saying washing. He's because I say washing. A washing machine.
That's a southern thing, though. You have to say wash.
Well,
But
that's a Chicago thing. They say wash up there.
It doesn't sound right to say washing. I had the washing machine switch break.
Y'all putting on airs.
Right.
Yeah, fancy.
I'm sorry. What's the vowel in that word? Is it an A or an O or an O?
An O.
Oh, yeah, WORSHING.
Washing machine.
Washing.
That's right.
They say that up in Chicago too, the wash thing. Yeah. Down here it's wash.
They were talking about safe and dangerous cities on one of the YouTuber chats the other day. And somebody was saying Chicago was safe. And I'm like, are you out of your damn mind? Like I wouldn't go to Chicago if it was free. No offense to anybody who lives in Chicago. I'm sure it's great.
Enough trouble going to Minneapolis.
No. I hate it, but no, that's Murder City, USA.
Chicago?
Every holiday they're at the top of the list of murders per weekend. I mean,
making sure we're not talking about Minneapolis.
In Chicago they're like
10.
We only had 78 shootings Saturday night in Chicago.
Only
7. So it was calm.
Only 70 of them were fatal. The 8 people survived until Monday. Yeah. When I was one of my college tenures, I was in the maintenance department part-time. And so I got sent to the finance office to change out light bulbs. And these are large fluorescent bulbs, and they were 220 bulbs, as a matter of fact. So I'm standing on a ladder trying to put in this 4-foot bulb. And of course, you can never get the damn thing to go in where it rotates and catches the contacts. So I was guiding one end in with my finger as I put the bulb in, and I saw God, fell off the ladder. Some old lady in the finance, "Are you okay, Sonny?"
You see white for about a split second,
Right? And I thought the same thing. The Lord is calling me home. I'm only 17, 18, whatever I was, and the Lord's calling me home already.
No, ma'am, I am not all right.
Just can't buy drugs safely anymore.
Right?
It's a damn shame.
Right. Oh, yeah, I know what website TO's on. Yeah.
HeyJackass.com.
That used to be, New Orleans used to be the murder capital, and I think Chicago took that title away.
Well, actually, for a long time, it was East Palo Alto in the Silicon Valley, where I grew up. I grew up a few cities over from that. We had the highest murder per capita rate.
Really?
Look at that. I love the selfie meter when you accidentally shoot yourself.
18 people have shot themselves year to date. More people have shot themselves than have had other people shoot them in the crotch.
Oh, go back. There's even better ones. There he is. He's getting there now. Shot in the junkometer. Shot in the assometer. Oh my God. And we're all going to hell for laughing at this.
23.4% homicide clearance rate. Nice.
No suspects charged most of the murders.
Yeah.
Wow.
Seems like a safe place.
What city is this?
Chicago.
Chicago. That's what we're talking about.
The fodder is deep in there. Good morning.
Howdy.
Hang on. Let me get my logo there.
That's right.
Oh, nice.
There we go.
Now, is that because you are religious or because you are an ASCII art fan? Or is that the same
ASCII
thing?
art fan, and I run the company called Halibut Electronics. I am not religious. Yeah.
He told us last time he did it for the halibut, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
T.O. trying to start some drama with the questions already.
Asking. No, you're not wrong. I have some incredibly Jewish friends of mine who ask the same question. They're like, "That you're not into the Jesus fish, are you, Smitty?" I'm like, "Nope."
It's still a fish, okay? It's just sometimes a fish is just a fish.
That's right.
Right. So, guys, good morning again. We have our guest here now, thankfully.
I have coffee, and let me get switched over to the computer.
And I told these guys, we were talking about you before the show backstage, and somebody asked, where is Smitty at? And I said, I get the impression that Smitty is not a morning person exactly. And he's in California, so he's a couple hours behind us.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what this does. Let's see. I got my headphones on. I don't know if it's going to let me in twice or.
Yeah, it probably will.
Am I in twice now?
It will, yes.
Yeah.
Here, we'll just put both you at the bottom. Oh, now he's gone.
Now he's gone.
Never mind. I tried.
That's okay. I would rather not have the belly button cam.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, wow. Your audio quality just went up by a factor of 1,000 there.
And that too. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So Smitty owns Halibut Electronics, and we've had Smitty on the show before, and he's driving a whole bunch of cool projects that we're going to get him to talk about. One of those, and I know we talked about it the last time you were on the show, was the open open headphone interconnect standard.
Headset, but close. You got very close right there at the end.
Jeez, almost.
I'm impressed you made it as far as you did. Yeah, open headset interconnect standard.
Interconnect standard. And you're one of the driving forces behind that thing. That's your whole baby, or you're working on that with a group of manufacturers too, or?
So I have set up the open headset interconnect standard working group. So far, I'm the only one who has joined said working group.
The only working member.
You're in charge.
Yeah, good idea. You're in charge. It is my thing that I'm doing, but I'm trying to keep it separate from the commercial Halibut Electronics stuff. right? There's the standards advocacy stuff, and then there's the Halibut selling commercial products. And I really try to keep a line between those two.
So you have got, I saw you, I didn't get to talk to you. I saw you at Hamvention. You had a crowd of acolytes around you and your hands were moving. And I was like, I don't know what that's about, but I'm going to stay away.
Gesticulating wildly.
You were, and he looked busy. So I was like, I'll catch up with him later. And then that never happened. But so you've got some new stuff coming out and some other stuff that we've had that you've also mentioned before. We were talking about your CMC test board, which is kind of a cool gadget. And
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say let's talk about that one because the ape loves to talk about common mode current and
He's all about choking. Yeah,
he is all about choking.
Well, Mr. Ape, so
Mr.
you
Ape.
obviously know what well, it's better than Sir Ape. I don't know, whatever.
Lord,
God, that head's gonna be so big. Don't call him.
I know,
Sir.
right? His hat's just not going to fit anymore.
Right.
it doesn't fit
It's got
now.
a strap.
So you know what a common mode current choke is. You know what common mode current is and why you want to get rid of it and all that fun stuff.
Slightly.
Have you ever tried to measure the effectiveness of a common mode current choke? How would you do that?
What I do is I use alligator clips, and then what I'll do
Okay.
is I'll take a choke like this, and I'll clip to the shield side, and then what I'll do is I will short out the other set of alligator clips and measure it that way. Now you could also measure attenuation on the pin just by connecting it to the center conductor side, but common mode current typically flows on the shield, so that's the attenuation I'm looking for on the shield, right?
Very nice. Okay, so to make that a little bit clearer for the listener who may not have followed that quite as much, you want to take the signal from the inside of the coax coming from your nano VNA and put it on the shield of the device under test, and then you want to take the shield of the cables from the nano VNA and short them out directly so that they do not go through your common mode current choke, the device you're trying to test. Because you need it to be differential mode, you need to take the differential mode current and turn it into common mode, i.e. it's only flowing one direction. You can't just swap the pin and shield because now you still have currents flowing in opposite directions, and that makes it still differential mode, and it will still go to the inside of the coax. So,
Ape, you're muted, son.
okay,
I know,
glad
it's better
not
this
just
way.
me.
So saying this is also the way the choke works is the differential mode cancels itself out, right? So if you only have one set of current running through the choke,
Exactly.
you can attenuate it, and then using the S21 scatter parameters on the nano VNA, you can measure the amount of, I call it loss, but I think they call it gain, negative gain, something like that. But
Yeah, they call it S21 log mag, and
Yeah.
so it's negative. They represent it as negative gain. So yes, that is exactly the way you would want to measure a common mode current choke. The question is there a better way? Is there an easier way of doing that without all of the alligator clips? And the answer to that is yes. That is what my common mode current choke test rig kit does. And I'm trying to figure out if I have one within easy grabbing reach. I could go get one if we need to, but it's a board about yay big, and it's got a bunch of connectors on two halves. So there's an SMA on the input side, the back side, and then that SMA, the shields get shorted together, and then the center pin from that goes to the shield of a whole bunch of different types of connectors on the other side, an SMA, a BNC, Type N, PL259, and then banana plug if you want to test like a power cable or something.
yeah, it's a really clever design, and I actually remember I saw you when you gave a presentation for, I think it was called Ham Radio Today. It's probably close to 3 years
Curso
ago.
Today Ham Expo, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had the homebrew version where you had like the plastic box, use a black box that you built one in, and I'm like, this MF smart. I might have to build one of these. A lot of times, what I'll do though is like I'll have this is green. I should have grabbed black, but I will make a choke like this in the early stage.
It looks like
right?
a stigmata now.
Yeah,
Nice.
A toroidal stigmata.
here's one.
Just
So
a non-religious
I'll have something like this prior to it going into a box, right?
Okay.
And so I might want to test this before it goes right, just to make sure that it's good before I solder connectors on there.
Yeah.
So I'll still use the alligator clips. But, most hams, I say this with love, are appliance operators and are buying chokes online that are already coming with the terminations on there. And your device is genius for that. I mean, it's awesome.
The other idea that I had with that was if you're trying to make a device out of the coax you already have in your system.
100%.
Right? Like, yeah, they
Right.
say just put a bunch of coils, put a bunch of turns in a coil of your feed line, and that'll make a choke. Yes, it does, but
Not the
it's a
kind you
choke
want.
with some flaws. Let's go measure
Yeah.
it and see how that works.
Well, the other thing is you can use your test rig to test loss in coaxial cable, right? So if you have a piece of truck stop coaxial cable and you don't know what it is, you can connect it to that, do the same
Some
measurement,
PLC.
and figure out how much loss you're going to get through your cable.
You don't need my test rig for that because that
You
in that
don't.
case you're measuring the inside of the cable. You're measuring the differential mode.
Yeah,
So you can just go straight to the VNA for that.
you can if you have all the adapters, right?
Okay, so yes, in that case, my my test rig does have a through mode where it's not taking the center pin and putting it on the shield. It's just doing center to center, shield to shield. And in that case, you can use it as a giant universal adapter. SMA in on one side, and then SMA BNC type N SO239 or banana plug out on the other side.
Yeah,
So
it's
that is
awesome.
And then the other thing I added on version 3.1, the most recent version that's just been out for a while now, is that it has calibration standards on the board itself. So there are another couple of there are a couple of switches on the back that you can use to switch in either an open, a short, or a load, and then also a through between the two connectors. So it makes calibration of the VNA a heck of a lot easier.
And then where does it take the reference plane to when you do that? Is it the SMA or is it?
It's on the board itself.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So the board becomes your test plane.
It's awesome, man.
So you popped
did
up
we
a
talk
question
about
on the
Iceman's?
screen. Well, first off, are there any other questions about the common mode current choke test rig?
I don't see any about that. I see a lot of love for the common mode current test rig. Iceman has dropped a $10 super chat. Iceman, thank you. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Don and Don is trolling also, kind of. Just if you don't know Don, we love Don, but Don is our chief troll. He's asking if you have any of the universal radio controllers in stock. That is AIOC on steroids.
It is. So yes, I do. The universal radio controller is a device designed by a chap in the UK, G1LRO. His name is also Mark, but he designed this thing and he reached out to me. It's basically an AIOC. Do you know what AIOC is?
Oh yes, we do.
Okay, the all-in-one cables.
Yep.
So he took the open source version of part of the all-in-one cable, stuck it on a circuit board, and then added a whole lot more interfaces to it, so that it's not just the Kenwood style 3.5 and 2.5 millimeter plug. He did it so that you can still have those two plugs. He also ran the audio out into like a transmit audio and a receive audio if you've got line level. The serial port is out on its own thing. And since he was adding all of these different audio and digital interfaces, he also added an OHIS port on the back. And so if you have your radio that has already got an OHIS interface on the radio side, you can plug the URC into that using OHIS, and it will do all of the audio interconnect stuff correctly. So he reached out to me and told me about that, and then mentioned that he can't really ship out of the UK very easily. And he was wondering if I would be interested in selling the URC in the United States. And then I said, sure, yeah. And then we also mentioned that I can ship internationally pretty easily. So basically, I sell the URC everywhere he can't. If I ever get an order for Great Britain or Ireland, which are kind of the two places he can ship easily, then I cancel that order and refer them over to Mark's page. but anywhere else in the U.S. or anywhere else in the world, excuse me, I can ship that product.
So Iceman is saying he missed seeing the CM test rig, so I am going to grab a picture of that.
Okay.
And share it. Unless you, Mark, do you have an actual in front of you? We can share that.
Let me go grab it. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, while Mark is
He
doing
wasn't wearing
that,
pants, so I need to take him off camera.
yeah, thank you. We appreciate that.
Or you don't want to see his other test rig. So
Right. Right.
I think we call that a test hog.
So this is what we were talking about, the common mode current test rig. And this is a nice little setup for doing this kind of thing. You don't have to have danger cables like somebody does. And if you're not into this amount of soldering connectors and whatnot, Mark will put the kit together for you for a fee. So
hey, we got Chris. We have a don't we have a support thing on Toads?
We do. We have the official support thing on Toads for the AIOC.
yeah, Chris
And
Bricker-
Simon himself is in there.
Yep. Yep. If you drop the message in the AIOC chat, I think I removed the wrong thing or something. No, what happened there?
Well, you're good. Just drop a message in the AIOC chat and tag Jim.
Is Toads? I got invited to Toads Discord a long time ago, and I joined, and I'm not active on it because I have so many Discords at this point. Is Toads you guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
And we're cool.
Well,
Unlike a lot of other ham Discords. I'm just saying.
Well,
I'm not going to name names.
No, of course not.
So have you got your board there handy there?
I do.
Let me embiggen your picture.
Okay, so this is the common mode current choke test rig. This is the demo unit that I take to conventions, which is why it's got a blob of hot glue there, because those are where the resistors are for the calibration standards, and I don't want them falling off as it gets manhandled at conventions.
Right.
So this is the input side. You've got two SMAs right here. Those are the ones that connect to your nano VNA or whatever VNA. And then these two switches on the outside are what switch it back and forth between measuring common mode on the outside or measuring differential mode, i.e., am I testing a common mode current choke, or am I just going through center pin to center pin, shield to shield?
Right.
Then the three in the middle are what allow you to do the calibration. The two on the outside are for open, short, and load. Sorry, my fingers are working in mirror image. So the ones over here are 3 position switches for open, short, and load. And then the one in the middle is for isolation or through. It just connects the two sides together. So when you're testing a common mode current choke, all those switches go up. As long as all your switches are up, then it is in testing mode.
And you're saying that the short and the load are actually baked into the board, so you don't need to connect those at all.
Correct.
Awesome.
Oh, that is cool.
So yeah, you just flip the switches to get it into the open, short, and load state for calibration.
And you can calibrate that regardless if you're on test or through.
I see what you're saying. Yes. However, you probably want to calibrate it on test because that is the state the board will be in while you're measuring a common mode current choke. Right? The center pin will be tied to all of this mass of shields on all the connectors, and you want that parasitic capacitance and whatever else in the circuit while it's being calibrated to try and calibrate that out as much as possible.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So there was a starred question I dropped. I think we've moved on. Yeah, I know. I'm looking for it. Arnie is asking about the eggnog antenna, and that was something I saw you do a presentation or a video on somewhere on somebody's channel, and I was like, that was when I decided I wanted to get you back on the show to talk about that thing, and that's what I wanted to ping you with at Hamvention too. So Arnie and I, same page.
Embiggen me again.
Oh, it's okay. Listen, buddy, I've got a wife and kid. Oh, wrong one.
And still can't do it right.
So I'm excited. Smitty got me all verklempt.
So this looks like a standard Eggbeater antenna, and it is. But I am working on a design of a kit that will make building an Eggbeater antenna a lot easier. So in the top there is I just shipped all of the ones that were on my bench out, so I'd have to go dig one out of a bag. But the top one there is just a mechanical board. It's got the circular stuff with the screw holes, and those go to the screws that go through here, and then other connections. The real magic is this board here, which is the phasing board. The hard part about an Eggbeater antenna is doing the phasing between these two loops. Like, this is the loop that's fed directly from the feed line. You need to phase this loop 90 degrees out of phase. So you need to put a 90 degrees, excuse me, a quarter wavelength of feed line between that feed point and that feed point. The problem is that these are roughly 100 ohm antennas, and they are balanced antennas. So ideally, you would have 100 ohm balanced shielded feed line. Shielded because there's a bunch of other stuff going on down here that you want to make sure that your coax is, your feed line is shielded. Your phasing loop.
Coffee, son. There you go.
You want to make sure that your phasing loop is shielded because you got a bunch of other stuff going on in here. So I have never found 100 ohm balanced shielded feed line. I don't know if you guys have ever found that.
No, I've never even heard of it.
Exactly.
Can you make that out of shielded Ethernet cable?
That would be balanced.
It is balanced, and it is 100 ohm.
And it's shielded.
Depending on which pairs you use, it's 100 ohms or 50 ohms or whatever ohms you want to ohms.
They're all 50
Ethernet
ohms.
cable are
they're all 100 ohms. Every pair is 100 ohms.
Yeah, but if you take these, I'm going to do this wrong because I haven't had enough coffee yet either. But if you take these two pairs that are 100 ohms and you go like this,
you put them in parallel,
or like that,
parallel,
they become
50. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So Ethernet cable is a fantastic replacement for coax if you're like stuck out in the woods somewhere and didn't bring your coax, but somehow brought your network gear with you.
I don't know if you have a box full of Cat 5 cable that you don't want to use on your network anymore, that's sitting in the shop because you just don't want to throw it away.
Several, actually.
Yes.
Although only one roll of shielded Cat 5. It's Cat 6. And that I am still using.
Yeah, so now you've got your feed line.
So I tried that, and for some reason I couldn't get it to work. So I would have to, I'm going to go look into that. So I made a bunch of testing rigs using SMA connectors on either side, and then a feed line in between them to try and measure this sort of thing. And the best one that I found was from documentation where you have two 50 ohm coaxes in parallel, and you tie the shields together on either end, and then you use the center conductors as your center conductor in your shield. And that made it roughly 100 ohm because you got a 50 ohm coming up this side and then a 50 ohm coming down this side, and they're in series, and it ends up making a 100 ohm feed line. That'd
be the weirdest antenna ever with an RJ45 jack on the bottom for feed line.
It would.
Really mess some people up. They'd argue with you. You'd be right, but they'd argue with you.
Listen, on QRZ, there would be much consternation, rending of garments, and gnashing of teeth.
And then you would take if it were me, and you're smart too, you would take the termination point from the RJ45 connector and wire that up properly on the PCB so that it's just a regular Ethernet cable going in for your feed line.
Actually, there are some advantages to that for power as well. But anyway, I have not gone that route. Instead, I have gone the route of, I realized that you can put any transmission line on a circuit board. Usually the calculators say, here's how to do it for 50 ohm, unbalanced. But if you find the right calculator, you can do whatever impedance, and balanced or unbalanced, however you want. And I can put them on the inner layers of a multi-layer circuit board and put shields on the outside. So the route that I went was to make a circuit board that was the phasing loop. So it is 100 ohm, balanced, shielded feed line in here, a transmission line. and I can lay out the length of it exactly correct to be a quarter wave on whatever frequency I want. And it is exactly reproducible because it's fabbed by a circuit board company.
Nice.
The only drawback is that I need to make one of these phasing boards for every frequency range that you might want to operate on. But these are, relatively inexpensive and simple to make. And if somebody comes to me and says, I want a board for such and such frequency that I don't already have, it's pretty easy for me to do the design, send it off to fab, get 10 boards, sell one of them to that user, and now I've got 9 more to sell to somebody else if they want it.
What frequency is that one that you're...
This particular one is for 436, so UHF ham bands.
And then you need to adjust the size of the loop too, right? When you change the frequency.
So we got all carried away with the what is it, how does it work thing, and we forgot to say what it does. What's the benefit of this over what it isn't?
Okay, so the advantage of an Eggbeater antenna, there are several different designs that use this, but the Eggbeater is kind of the simplest, where you just have a full wave loop up here. The whole advantage of an Eggbeater antenna is that it is a roughly hemispherical radiation pattern. So if you were to just have like a vertical antenna here, it would radiate out to the horizons, but there would be a deep null above you.
Above, on top.
Right, on top. And that's not great for operating satellites. Ideally, you would have a kind of a hemispherical, instead of a donut, you want a bun.
So like a half Earth pattern.
Like a muffin.
Center.
Exactly.
Like a muffin.
So, like a muffin, exactly. So
half Earth.
Yep. I'm going to go with a bow, like a pork bun. Anyway.
Yeah.
Because I can't eat them, and they were always one of my favorites, and I can't eat them anymore. Anyway. It's a hemispherical pattern. It kind of goes up and out to the sides, but does not waste any energy going down, especially once you put a ground reflector underneath it. And so they're great for operating satellites. They are going to have rubbish gain compared to a Yagi, which is the quote-unquote better antenna to talk to a satellite. The problem with the Yagi is that you have to point it.
Yeah.
This thing...
Which involves...
Yeah.
And you have to rotate
Excuse
it.
me, which you have to put it on a rotor. My goodness.
Well, there's rotor and then there's polarization. And so this antenna you're talking about covers both of those problems.
Only when it's straight up. So, yeah, okay. First, let's talk about azimuth and elevation, which is the rotor and pointing and stuff. Because this is hemispherical, you don't have to worry about that, right? Anywhere on the sky, this thing can see. However, it's got much less gain, right?
Than a
your
Yagi
antenna.
right.
So you typically want to have an LNA as close to the antenna as possible, which is something I'm working on. It'll be a board. Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It was a terrible habit, right?
I haven't had my chance to work out all my morning evacuations.
Phlegm.
Yeah. And so this mounts on a 2-inch PVC pipe, right? That's the mast. The amp nogs will be a small circuit board that hangs below this. That is an LNA, low noise amplifier for receive. And then it will have a relay in there that will get bypassed when you go into transmit mode. So it will be capable of both transmit and receive. So you were talking about radiation pattern, and this will get you covered. As for polarization, this isn't quite as universal as you would hope. On the horizon, it will be horizontally polarized.
Overhead, it's going to go to left hand?
It's going to go to circular. I'm trying to remember...
Oh,
is it
left?
horizontal or vertical? Anyway, on the horizon, it is linearly polarized. I can't remember whether a loop like this will be horizontal or vertical, but on the horizon, it is linearly polarized. And as it goes straight up, it will either be left-hand circularly polarized or right-hand circularly polarized. Now, the good news about circular polarization is that if you're talking to something that is linearly polarized, it doesn't matter whether you're left or right, or whether they are horizontal or vertical. You're only ever going to suffer up to 3 dB of loss. Whereas if you're linearly polarized and one is horizontal and the other one is vertical, you've got a 30 dB of loss.
Right.
And then I think if you've got a left-hand circular polarized and a right-hand circularly polarized, I don't know if that's a full 30 dB or if that's something less. I can't remember what the mismatch loss is on that one.
But that's why you can't mount that mast horizontally and point it across the horizon, right?
What, this one?
Yeah, so hold it sideways. Right. So you can't mount it like that because you're gonna have polarization loss to whoever you're talking to, unless if you're going out left-handed and they
Well,
have to be here and right-handed,
They're
right?
right there versus they're up here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
because
the radiation over on this side over here will be circularly polarized, and up here
Right.
it'll be linearly polarized.
right. What I'm saying is, if you wanted, so somebody was asking about using this for meshtastic nodes, and the thing is probably not the best idea for meshtastic nodes compared to a vertically polarized like a whip,
Yeah.
because meshtastic nodes are not in the satellites, right? As far as I
Yeah.
understand.
Not many
Unless
of
they
them
start putting them up
above
in
here.
satellites or in balloons or in airplanes or something like that.
That'll
Right.
be next.
But if
And
we're
so
just talking
you can't take
terrestrial,
that and mount it this way because of the polarization problem with other meshtastic nodes.
well, not
right?
only
So-
that, but you've taken your bun and put half your bun or half your muffin under the ground, and the other side is
yeah, so
yeah.
you wouldn't want that done.
So it's good
But,
for
I mean,
being
you could
lazy
still
working
build one for
satellites.
918 and use it for meshtastic, but I don't think you're going to get any benefit over a
Like a ground
over whip.
plane, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple things. I think we put the wrong link in the chat for Halibut Electronics, so I'm pasting
Apparently,
in.
Smitty's got 2 websites.
Yeah, and one works and one is old or something is what Cornbread was saying.
Yeah,
I just
thought
Googled
I
Halibut
posted it.
Electronics and then I was at the right
Got the wrong
website.
one.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
that's the one- that's the one I
Electronics.halibut.com is the effective is the real URL. If you go to halibutelectronics.com, it'll just redirect you there.
Ish.
Oh, does it not? Is that
It did.
broken?
It did not just a second ago because that's what I checked, and
Maybe the polarization's wrong on the redirect.
it's
Uh,
right-handed lefty polarization,
No, it just
circularly
worked for
linear.
me.
It's fine, dude. It's no
Okay.
big deal. I gave him the direct one either way. They're fine.
He's probably using one of those goofy browsers.
No, I'm not using a goofy browser. I'm using Chrome.
No, I was talking about Cornbread.
No, Cornbread's probably using Brave with all the ad blocking and anti-NSA filtering turned on and going through that Bulgarian VPN connection. So
I see a question from Chris.
yeah, that was the next one I wanted to pop up. Yes.
Okay, pop it up.
Hit it.
So his question is, can you build a Eggbeater with a director and a reflector to increase its gain? So a loop on the inside and outside of the current loop. It would not be a loop on the inside and outside because a full wave loop doesn't radiate the same way as a half wave element. So what you would do is you build your Eggbeater here, and you can put a reflector on the bottom. And in fact, you do need a reflector beneath it because that's what makes the hemispherical radiation pattern. Otherwise, it's pretty damn close to isotropic. So you do want to have a reflector there, which is what pushes everything up into the hemisphere. You could put a director directly above it, but that's just going to take everything and squeeze it up more. So you have more energy going up and less energy going out to the sides. There is no way from a physics perspective, because conservation of energy is a thing, there is no way to increase the gain of the antenna without affecting the radiation pattern. Right?
Take it from
There's
somewhere
no way
else
to
and put
keep
it where
it
you want it.
hemispherical and have it have better gain, because that would be getting something for nothing. There's no compromise in there. Every antenna that gives you gain takes that gain from somewhere else in the radiation pattern and concentrates it in one area.
Exactly.
So you're kind of, gain is power focusing, exactly that. So you got to take it from somewhere else to put it in the direction that you want it to. And the whole point of an Eggbeater antenna is that it has that hemispherical radiation pattern.
Jim, you're muted.
I had the air conditioner on because it's like 81 in here now. I have a disc cone, and I have hit some satellites with it, but I have to have the satellites like almost directly overhead before I can get them. I cannot get anything on the horizon.
Really?
Now, full disclosure, that disc cone is 30 years old, and I haven't looked at it in 29 and a half years. So I don't know.
It's now a disc flat.
Well, no, it still looks intact, but
Is
But
it?
see,
Didn't it
something
fall
like
over?
no, that was a different one. That was that janky one that's out. No, this one
Does
did
it
not.
It's still
still have
laying.
its
It's still
vertical
laying
whip?
on the ground.
Does it still have its vertical whip, or is it just a disc and a cone?
No, it has a vertical whip.
Okay. I have no idea why that would be, because the radiation pattern of a disc cone is like a vertical, like a quarter wave whip.
Maybe that's the ones I can get. I cannot get a full satellite pass
Okay.
with
I
the
would
disc
believe
cone.
Andy.
it would be more consistent with my understanding of the radiation pattern of a disc cone if you could hear the horizon but not above you.
Maybe that was it. I knew it was one or the other. I've played with it 2 or 3 times. The results are sketch. I'm like, okay, before I get into this too much, I'm going to have to upgrade the antenna on the 9700 to do satellites correctly.
Yeah.
But so Chris Bricker has had these questions out for a while, and he's probably, come on, answer my question, because it was the wrong quiz.
No, we're ignoring him. Yeah.
Oh, we are? Okay, well then screw that guy. I don't care. No, Chris is wanting to know about what are you using for calculating in your PCB design software, and are you using any simulation software?
So I am using I can't remember the website. There are various calculators online for being able to calculate the geometry of a transmission line on a circuit board. The inputs are the geometry of your stack up, right? What are the distances between the layer 1, 2, 3, and 4? What is the permeability of the material on each of those? So whether it's 3312 or FR4, the permeabilities typically range somewhere between 4.1 and 4.6. You have to take that permeability and put it into your calculator, and your intended impedance and trace widths and all that fun stuff. And there isn't a one that I've been able to find that is, tell me what impedance and whatnot you want, and I'll tell you your trace widths. But there are ones that when you type in your stack up, it'll tell you what the impedance is. And so I used that and just kind of tweaked the numbers until I got as wide a trace as possible, using the stack up available from my board manufacturer to get the correct impedance. And it took a while to find one that actually will calculate balanced traces on top of each other in a stack up, as opposed to balanced traces next to each other in a stack up. That's the more typical way of doing a balanced transmission line, but I want them on top of each other so that the trace lengths in my phasing loop are the same. If I have them next to each other, then one's going to have to go a farther distance as it goes around the outside of the turn, and that's going to affect the phase. So I wanted them on top of each other so that they go the exact same distance as they go through the phasing loop. But I found a calculator online that will tell me the impedance of that particular geometry and stack up, and I use that to hunt down 100 ohm balanced, with the 2 balanced transmission lines in the center layers and then shields on the outside. So that's how I calculated it. I have not run any simulations on the phasing line. If you want to run an antenna simulation, like using an NEC platform, those don't simulate the phasing lines. You would just program that and say, hey, there's a phasing line here. I have stacked pairs are hard to calculate and simulate. I am finding that, but you will also note that I do have test boards here. These are my phasing loops that I have hooked up SMAs to, and then if I calibrate my VNA with SMAs that have been back-to-back to take out the SMA connector, on the board, and so that the test plane is right at those vias at the tip of the center conductor there, I can actually measure these boards. So I'm not simulating things, I'm building them and then measuring them using a VNA.
I got to tell you, man, that through connection that you hand soldered there, that takes a steady hand to do that.
Which one? The
SMA,
goes?
the SMA calibration standard that you made for the through measurement.
This does not require any steady hands. This requires an omnifixo. Let's hear. Is this going to focus? Of course not. It's 2 SMAs back to back
Oh, you
camera.
cut it looks like you cut 2 of the legs off.
Nope,
Oh no, they're all on there.
they're all
Those are
on there.
PCB SMAs, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are
Okay.
edge mount
Gotcha.
PCBs. Or
Gotcha.
edge mount SMA connectors that I soldered the center pins together and then the grounds on the outside. We talked about it on the ham radio workbench. It's a kind of like a helping hands board, but really well designed for circuit boards. I use that to hold the 2 SMAs right next to each other. And the clips use high temperature silicone for their grippiness, so you don't have to worry about getting them too hot.
About
Get 'em too
melting
hot,
and
melt-
slagging the clips. Yeah.
Yeah. So made
go
that
ahead.
easy.
So hold a second. I'm cutting
Uh-oh.
off. I am so glad that Shooter says this. He says if he didn't know better, he'd think he's Gendron's doppelganger. I don't know if you know John Gendron or not, but I get
I
the
don't.
2 of you guys confused constantly.
They could be
Constantly.
brothers from the same mother. They look very similar.
Well,
and sound
And
alike.
they're both a little smart too, yeah.
Yeah. Smarter than us. I mean, Jesus.
I'm not gonna lie, Steve, you look almost exactly like my brother-in-law.
Bless
Sorry
your
about
heart,
that.
Steve.
Okay.
Or Mark, sorry you had to look at him this early in the morning.
Well, yeah, no, I can. Jonathan's a good guy. You wouldn't happen to be from Alabama, would you?
Me or Jonathan?
No, Steve. You,
I am not from Alabama. I was born
No.
in Balmer, Maryland.
Maryland. Okay. My brother Jonathan is from.
And now he's a
brother-in-law
nomad. He's a nomad.
Does he still live down? I live in Alabama. I'm not from here.
Oh,
I'm
do
from
you?
Chicago, but I live here.
No, my brother-in-law lives in the Bay Area now with my sister.
Okay.
But he grew up in Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham, you mean?
Birmingham. Birmingham?
Birmingham.
What the hell is Birmingham? Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham
and-
is how the Brits say that. They're wrong, of course.
Birmingham. It's not Birmingham.
No, it's not Birmingham, mate.
Do I call him a Brummie? No, that's a different thing. Anyway, yeah, I have similar concerns about the town I live near, is San Luis Obispo, and everyone wants to pronounce it San Louis. I'm like, no, it's Spanish, not French.
Right.
It is Louis.
Right.
Anyway.
So we had a couple questions pop up,
Yep.
and we're at an hour and 7 minutes. So I want to get these off the board
Quantum
at least.
SDR.
I don't know if Don is trolling us or not. So
No, it's a legit thing. It's actually a
Okay.
very cool device.
I have not heard of Quantum SDR. I don't know what that is.
It is a front-end display to improve your experience with a G90. It takes IQ in, well, other radios that do IQ in and out. It takes IQ in and then puts it up on a nice big screen and lets you do all kinds of cool stuff instead of the little tiny G90 screen.
Got it. That was always one of my biggest complaints about the G90 is the tiny screen. It's a great radio with a terrible UI for these old eyes.
So, do you have a recommended LNA that you're going to use for that Eggbeater? Because a lot of the folks I know buy these LNAs off of like AliExpress and stuff like that, and they're super duper noisy.
Interesting. LNAs are not hard to build because there are chips that do all the hard part, and they've got reference designs in the data sheet. And as long as you don't screw up the reference design, it should be pretty easy to do. I will be building my own LNA, designing my own LNA, specifically because I want it to be powered from bias voltage coming up the coax. And then when the bias voltage is removed, a relay will close that bypasses the LNA. So without power, it is a transmit capable antenna, but with power, you get the LNA. The 9700 will support that natively. You can configure the 9700 to remove bias power when it goes into transmit mode. But for most radios that don't do that, I'll be building a device called TNOGS, TEA, back on the drink theme. That is a bias T injection system, but it will have a PTT socket input, so that if your radio can trigger, hey, I'm about ready to go into PTT mode, like you would do for an amplifier, you take that signal, run it into TNOGS, and it will remove bias power from the coax to trigger the amp.
Gotcha.
Arnold Grubbs is asking about your website. He said he sees the SOAR 1 picture on the web page, but it takes you to the high pass filter. Where is the SOAR 1? Why is it not ready? I don't know what a SOAR 1 is. I guess that's,
I know what
is that
SOAR
your
is.
Eggbeater?
I'm interested by this whole takes you to the high pass filter. That means my website is linking things incorrectly. SOAR stands for Satellite Optimized Amateur Radio. It was the first product I designed for Halibut Electronics, but I got to the very end of the design process, and there was a problem with a third-party module that I wasn't able to resolve, so that product never went to market. It is an appliance for operating FM satellites. Picture a radio about this big. It is full duplex crossband, so you can transmit and receive at the same time on, VHF or UHF. Transmit on VHF, receive on UHF, or vice versa. It has a GPS in it, so it knows where it is and when it is. Click that box right there. Does that take? Oh,
yeah, it takes you to the.
Okay, it takes you to the product line. Okay, yeah, all right. Eggnogs are going to be over here on the satellite page. Yeah, the SOAR page isn't being linked to anywhere because no, it's not for sale yet. But the idea with SOAR is that it an appliance for operating FM satellites. It has a GPS, so it knows where it is and when it is. You can load the TLE data onto it over the USB, so it knows where the satellites are. And then once you know where you are and where the satellite is and what time it is and all that fun stuff, you can calculate things like azimuth and elevation and display it on the screen. You can calculate things like relative velocity, which will tell you what the Doppler shift is that you need to put into your radio, and then it automatically adjusts the radio frequency for Doppler shift. So it automates the Doppler shifting stuff. It also has enough storage inside that it can record the audio of the pass, uplink and downlink separately. I think those are the main features. There are a bunch of other things out there as well, but or a bunch of other little minor features that would take more time than appropriate to go into. So yeah, SOAR is not ready yet. I need to come up with a better solution for that one RF module that wouldn't work, and me and some friends are kind of working on that in the background, but it's not my main project priority right now.
What's Arnie Carlson is asking about the NOG availability?
Yeah, when will Eggnogs and whatnot be available? My goal is to have Eggnogs, just the antenna part of it. Oh, I never actually talked about what the product is. So everything that's here except for the aerial loops will be part of the kit. So the phasing board, the main board up there, the feed point, common mode current choke, zip tie, and all of the stainless steel hardware and the PVC cap milled out with the holes in the right place. All of that will be part of the kit, and it will be available sometime. My goal is to get it out in the next few months. I really want to have these available to sell at Huntsville.
Outstanding.
I can't commit to that because I know how my development processes tend to go, but it is my current priority project. But the idea is all the stuff that you can't just buy at your local hardware store will be in the kit.
Those PVC caps are hard to get, indeed.
The PVC caps with the holes drilled in the right places are hard to get. That's the thing. But the Romex or whatever other aerial loop material you want to use, you can get yourself. The 2-inch PVC pipe for the mast, you can get yourself. All that fun stuff.
So hopefully you're going to be at Huntsville, though, right?
I am going to be at Huntsville. Yes.
I will hunt you down because I want those. I ordered about one of everything else on your website while we've been here. So
awesome. Thank you.
I didn't buy the OHIS dingus because I don't really need it, but
yep.
But other Andy in our chat, AA0M Andy, is also apparently an acolyte of the Universal Radio Controller. And Don was like, every time I go, there's none on the website. So since Don said that, I had to make sure I got one before Don did.
The URC?
And that's what I got me a URC. I got all the options. I got the AA APRS board, and I got a CMC test rig too. So
okay, cool. Yeah, they are
got you, Don. I beat you.
I just double checked my webpage. I'm like, yeah, they're in stock. I have them in a shelf over there.
Yeah, Don was saying, they're always out of stock. I'm like, son, I'm looking at them right now. Let me get this before Don gets the last one, because he'd do that.
Maybe he didn't have his coffee yet, too.
He may not have. I mean, he needs two. And I see that when the show's almost over, James Hannibal rolls in here. So good morning, James Hannibal.
He's shaking off the sleep right now.
Could make it. You need to try some of that coffee you're selling. I'm just saying, coffee helps. And also, Ham Radio Tectonics managed to land in here. You're late, Bill. You're gonna have to buy the delay on that one.
Shame.
Shame.
That's a round on Bill, folks.
Right. And the OHIS dingus, Bill says, as I call it, is a lifesaver. He doesn't. He had in the green ham machine. Bill hams out of a trailer on the road mostly.
So Tectonics is
That's
you
Bill.
said. So do you have one of my OHIS dinguses? Dingai? Yeah, those are actually starting to sell now, which is good because I had a whole bunch of them made by a third-party company and they didn't sell right away. And I'm like, oh, money is hard. And
Right.
but they're selling now, and every time I go to a convention, I explain it to people. I've got a lot of people going, okay, that's cool. We need that to happen. I have other people run away from the table without saying anything. I'm like, okay, that didn't go well. But a few minutes later, they'll come back with one of their friends and say, you have to see this. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
Bill said he's the one who converted it to use aviation headsets.
Yes. Okay, cool. How's that working for you, Bill? Is that you mentioned, I think, an email that's working out okay? Yeah, aviation headsets are hard because they have a third type of microphone. It's not just dynamic or electret. The aviation headset standard is a carbon microphone element, which is like what used to be in phones, like telephones, landline telephones. They require a higher voltage than an electret microphone does, and they output a stronger signal than an electret does. But because they require a higher voltage, you can't plug a carbon microphone straight into an OHIS signal without adding that extra voltage. However, modern aviation headsets are using electret microphones set up so that they will work in a carbon circuit. So they bring the voltage down before it hits the electret microphone. But because it's an electret microphone element, you can plug it straight into OHIS and it just works. So as long as you have a modern-ish aviation headset with an electret microphone element, it'll work great on an OHIS cable without any extra circuitry to drive it. But if you have a real carbon microphone, then you do need.
Do you have one of them green David Clarks from the '60s? Probably you have to do the thing.
Yeah,
I'm betting Bill. I know Bill. I'm betting Bill has a Bose aviation headset because that's official as hell.
Chuck
real
Hawking,
pilots
yes,
use,
Bill.
yeah.
That's what real pilots use. That's right.
That's right.
Now Chuck's throwing Bill under the bus and saying he's an old geezer, so I don't know. Guys, you guys got any more questions for Smitty? Smitty, you got any other products that we haven't talked about that are coming out? Any other weird and wacky things from Halibut Electronics?
So the one other one that has been selling really well lately is called Haliki. Any of you? I see a flex behind Jim there.
Oh yeah.
Do you do CW?
It's for show only.
No, I do not CW yet. It's on the to-do list, but the time has not been there.
It's going to be, there you go, miscellaneous. So Haliki, I don't know about you guys, but when I operate my Flex remotely, let's say I'm using Smart SDR on my laptop and I'm 100 miles away from my Flex radio. That's kind of one of the key features of Flex. If I want to operate CW, my laptop doesn't have a key port on it, right? There's no place I can plug my Morse code paddles into my laptop to operate CW from my laptop remotely. So that's what Haliki is. It's USB on one side and a Morse paddle port on the other. Or PTT. It can also be used for just straight up PTT. But it's basically an FTDI serial chip. But instead of using the transmit and receive pins, all it uses are the CTS and DSR pins. So the control pins that you use for hooking up a Morse code paddle to your laptop, historically it's always been go buy this USB to serial port and then rig up this connection between your paddle and these pins. Well, I just automate all of that, so it's USB on one side and a paddle socket on the other.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And what's the controller chip you're running on that?
It's an FTDI 231.
Okay, so it's just straight serial. Awesome.
Just straight serial, yeah.
And I notice you can afford to do USB-C, unlike a lot of major radio manufacturers. So that's awesome that you're
it's tough, yeah.
Cutting edge.
And look at that
like
sweet labeled heat shrink on there.
I mean, that is
I'm going to give them a plug because I thought that was the raddest feature. Wirecare.com. They have like an online, like web browser based design tool. You just go in and say, I want this text here, that text there, upload an image, all the different fonts and styles and everything. You could, like an entirely online design tool. You click a button and, a few days later, a box of pre-cut, printed heat shrink shows up in your mail. That,
That's
like, when
neat.
I saw that, and the price isn't that bad. It's a lot more expensive than normal heat shrink, but it's, considering the BOM cost of the product, it wasn't that bad. And when I saw that, I'm like, that's a shut up and take my money moment.
Right.
Like, that was great.
Right. So Chris Bricker's asking the same question. Have you got any new dinguses that you can talk about that are not on the website that we haven't already talked about? What crazy things are coming?
Yeah, no, I've already talked about all the crazy things that are coming.
Okay.
I mean, talked about as in publicly. Right now, I'm working on eggnogs. Once
We
I'm
won't
done
tell
with-
anybody. Nobody here. There's
Yeah, it's just between you and me and the lamppost here. Right now, my priority is eggnogs. After eggnogs, my priority is the station console, which is an OHIS dingus. I'll happy to talk to you about. And then after that, I'm going back to SOAR. I want to dive headfirst into fixing that radio module to get SOAR out the door.
So that would
Can it
work
be
with an
used as a
iPad.
PTT on an
Yeah.
iPad? So no, the problem with iPad or iOS
No
in general
serial.
is that the iOS does not give an API for talking to a serial port. Thank you very much, Apple.
That's right.
Rude.
They do give you an API for MIDI. So you can hook up external MIDI controllers, and the iOS software already supports MIDI inputs. But there isn't a chip as simple as the FTDI chip that has MIDI triggers on this side, MIDI USB on the other side. So I would have to put a microcontroller down there and code it up. It is on my list of things to look into. However, Lintronics just beat me to it. There is a CTR2, I think is what it's called. Something. Yeah, anyway, they have they sell a small controller box that talks MIDI to your iPhone or your iPad, and it's got a tuning dial and a bunch of buttons and a socket for a Morse code paddle. So that product is way more capable than the product that I would sell that would be just PTT or just Morse. So if you're interested in that, look into that. It's Bluetooth connected to the phone. I worry about the latency on Bluetooth when doing Morse code. It'll be fine for tuning and for PTT and whatnot, but like the lowest latency you're going to get out of Bluetooth in that case is like 10 to 20 milliseconds. And if you're using that and generating side tone on the far side of that latency, you're going to have an upper limit of your speed, of the speed that you can go before you start running into problems. So.
Mm. All right. Well, guys, I think we're going to call that a show. Mark, thank you for.
Yes, thank you. And
Yeah,
thanks everybody in
absolutely.
the chat.
Thank you, everybody.
I am going to hit the button. Everybody wave bye for the awkward moment, and appreciate it, y'all. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Okay.